Welcome, fellow adventurers! Today, we are diving headfirst into a brand new world, the world of programming. Seriously, think of it like a vast digital frontier, and we're about to plant our flag. Our quest begins right now. So, right off the bat, we run into our first big challenge. The inhabitants of this digital world, computers, they don't speak English. They don't speak any human language. So, how in the world do we talk to them? How do we get them to do what we want? You see, the way we talk is, well, it's messy, right? It's fluid and packed with context. If I say, it's raining cats and dogs, you know exactly what I mean. But a computer? It only gets machine language, this super rigid, super literal language of just zeros and ones. It would literally be looking for fluffy animals falling from the sky. So yeah, we're gonna need a translator. We need a bridge between our world and theirs. And that's exactly what this whole journey is about. Here's our map. First, we'll meet our trusty guide, Python. Then we'll learn the basic grammar of the land. We'll get our explorer's toolkit ready, cast a few spells, learn to navigate the dangers, and at the end, face one final challenge. Okay, every great explorer needs a guide, right? Someone who knows the terrain. And for our digital adventure, you honestly couldn't ask for a better one than Python. Don't just think of it as a language. Think of Python as this super experienced, super friendly guide who knows all the shortcuts and is just excited to show you around. So what makes Python such an amazing guide? Well, first off, it speaks clearly. The language is so easy to understand, it almost reads like plain English. It's also a guide for absolutely everyone because it's totally free. Plus, it works anywhere. Doesn't matter if you have a Mac, a PC, whatever. And maybe the best part? It comes with this huge backpack just stuffed with tools for pretty much anything you can dream of doing. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want you to hold on to this thought. Programming isn't just about ones and zeros and cold logic. It's actually a super creative act. As the great Donald Knuth said, it's an art that produces objects of beauty. So as we go through this, remember, you're not just an explorer, you're an artist. All right, every new world has its own rules, its own laws of the land, and to use the powerful magic in this place, we have to learn to speak the language of its guardian. Let's call him the wizard, the one who's going to interpret all our commands. The very first thing any explorer needs is a place to keep all the cool stuff they find, right? In programming, we call this a variable, but for our quest, let's call it our magic satchel. It's basically a named container we carry around where we can stash all the treasures and info we pick up on our journey. But hold on, you can't just name your magic satchels whatever you feel like. Oh no, there are ancient laws you have to follow. A name has to start with a letter or an underscore. That's rule 1. After that, go nuts with letters, numbers, or underscores. Oh, and it's a really good idea to make the names meaningful. Like treasure map is way better than just TM. And this one is critical. Never ever start a name with a number. The wizard gets super confused. Now, check this out. It turns out the wizard has a handful of secret, powerful words that are reserved only for him. Words like if, for, and while. These are his magic words, and we are not allowed to use them for our satchels. But look at that other bar. The number of names available to us is practically infinite. So we've got our magic satchels. Let's talk about what we're going to put inside them. As we explore, we're going to find all sorts of different treasures. In Python, these are called data types. They're just the different kinds of information we can find and store. And here's a treasure map of all the different kinds of loot you can find in the land of Python. You've got simple things like numbers. You've got enchanted strings of items called sequences. And you've even got these complex puzzle boxes called dictionaries. It is a very rich world out there. So let's look at the most common treasures you're going to stumble upon. You'll find numbers, pretty straightforward, like gold coins. You'll find strings, which are basically like ancient scrolls with messages written on them. You'll definitely find lists. Think of these as expandable pouches where you can keep a whole collection of different items in order. And then you have dictionaries, which are like treasure chests with labels, so you can store related bits of info together. Now, here's a crucial point. Not all treasure is the same. Some treasures are mutable, which is a fancy way of saying you can change them after you find them. Think about our list pouch. You can add more items or take some out. But other treasures are immutable. Once they're created, that's it. They're permanent. You can't change the text on a string scroll once it's written. Okay, we've met our guide, we've learned the grammar, we've collected some treasures. Now for the really, really fun part. Casting spells. It is time to actually use our tools to interact with this digital world and make things happen. So how do we cast these spells? With our magic wands, of course. We call them operators. The plus sign? That's your addition wand. The little asterisk is for multiplication. The slash is for division. And the double asterisk, ooh, that's a powerful one. That's the exponent wand for raising a number to a power. Let's look at our very first spell. By using this command, print, parentheses, we're telling the wizard to magically write a message for the whole world to see. In this case, we're casting two spells back to back, one to say save Earth and another to say preserve future. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's actually pretty powerful. Of course, no adventure is just a walk in the park. As we explore, we have to be on the lookout for common traps and digital dangers that might stop us in our tracks. In the programming world, this is called debugging. And there are really three main types of traps you'll run into. First, syntax errors. This is like you messed up the magic words and the wizard just throws up his hands and says, I don't understand you. Then there are logical errors. These are sneakier. Your spell is technically correct, but it does something totally different than what you wanted. And finally, runtime errors. This is when you ask the wizard to do the impossible, and the spell just blows up mid-cast. And here's what one of those traps looks like in the wild. This is a value error. It's a classic runtime error. This happens when our spell promised the wizard we'd give it a number, but instead we handed it the word apple. The wizard just panics. It doesn't know what to do. But don't worry, these messages aren't punishments. They're actually clues that help us fix our spells. Well, you've journeyed far. You've learned the laws, you've collected tools, and you've faced some dangers. So now it's time for the epilogue to our story. One final challenge to test everything you've learned. So, our explorer needs to label 4 new magic satchels. Looking back on the ancient laws of naming we just talked about, which of these names are invalid? Which ones are going to make the wizard angry? We've got serial no, first room, total marks, and true. Go ahead, take a second and think about it. All right, ready for the debrief? Well, surprise. It was a trick question. All 4 of them were invalid. Serial no has a period in it. That's a forbidden symbol. First room breaks that huge rule about never starting with a number. Total marks has a space, which is also a no-go. And true? That's one of the wizard's special, reserved magic words. If you caught all those traps, fantastic job.
And that brings our little origin story to a close. You've met your guide, you've learned the language, you've gathered your tools, you've even cast your first spell. You are standing at the edge of a massive, incredible digital world. So now, the only question left is, what adventure are you going to go on? What will you create first? The journey is all yours.